When a dismissive avoidant pulls away, whether it's inside of the relationship or towards the end of the relationship or after a breakup, it can truly feel like you were never loved at all by this person. And you may start to even feel like, did I imagine all of this in my head? But what if the truth has more to do with them than your worth? What if the truth was that the dismissive avoidant is terrified of getting close to somebody, of being seen, and truly being vulnerable? So in this video, I'm gonna dissect why dismissive avoidants pull away and what their silence really means, because it's not about you. Surprise, surprise. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos, and like and share as well. And leave a comment below and let me know how this video resonates for you in your situation, your relationship or breakup with a dismissive avoidant partner. Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the real reason dismissive avoidants go silent, how this behavior is a form of self-protection, not rejection of you, and most importantly, how to stop taking their silence or their walking away personally so you can begin to heal. This is so important, guys. Educate yourselves, understand, and then let's move towards the healing process. I can help you with that. I'm actually taking a hiatus in June, working with clients. This is something that's been intuitively just sort of guided for me. And I'm going to be coming back in July and August, and I'm launching some amazing projects. So definitely stay tuned. There's going to be an online course that you can do in the comfort of your own home at your own pace, as well as a live version of that. And it's all about finding love again. It's all about moving past heartbreak and betrayal and abandonment and whatever happened, and really empowering yourself. Because guys, on the other side is bliss. On the other side is self-love and self-worth, connecting back to yourself and that partner that you've always dreamed of. So stay tuned. I cannot wait to share these things with you this summer. Okay, let's talk about the dismissive avoidance core wound for a moment. Let's start with that. They didn't learn to feel safe in closeness, guys. They were never taught this. They learned to survive without it. Oftentimes, and I've said this so many times, and there's other examples, but this to me really hits home. Often a dismissive avoidant is formed in childhood with parents that maybe were wealthy or had money, were able to provide for them financially and physically, but not so much emotionally or spiritually or even emotional or mentally, like mentally stimulating, like they didn't necessarily connect with that child. And they were really praised for their grades. They were praised for their accomplishments in sports, getting into the right college, etc. They were given a car for their birthday, that sort of thing, but not for who they truly were. They've never felt valued or loved for who they truly were. So as children, they were often emotionally neglected or over-controlled, okay? And so you'll see like this child that's, one parent's, I don't know, I'm just gonna say it, a lawyer, the other one's a doctor. And then that child is born into this perfectionistic world and this idea that, oh, you have to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever. And that child's like, I want to be an artist and go move to, I don't know, the Caribbean. And the parents are like, no, that's not appropriate. And they'll almost like not allow that child to truly develop into who they are. So they kind of grow up not really knowing who they are. They're not valued. They're not respected for who they are. And their vulnerability was either ignored or punished. So independence became a way for them to survive. It became their safety blanket that they could wrap themselves up in when they were feeling ignored, when they were feeling like they weren't enough, when they were feeling like they had to be perfect. Hello, nobody's perfect. But you can definitely, some of you are like, I can totally relate, to that idea that I had to grow up being perfect. I had to look the perfect way, dress the perfect way, have the perfect haircut. And you probably at some time rebelled, and maybe you even got disowned by your parents, or they cut off the money supply or whatever happened. But you were being who you truly are instead of stepping into this mold that was created for you at birth. So a dismissive avoidant learns to equate closeness with danger or engulfment. And engulfment is really like a feeling of being consumed, of losing their independence, losing their autonomy, losing their sense of agency. This explains why they often retreat. So they equate closeness with danger or engulfment, not comfort. It's like the complete opposite of the anxious ambivalent style, who equates closeness with comfort, right? And then they equate distance with punishment or danger, okay? So it's like the opposite reaction, if you will, to vulnerability and closeness. So here's an example of something that might go on in a dismissive avoidance mind. And I found this really helpful for my own healing process and healing my own attachment style, understanding my ex-husband's, is just like, what were they thinking? Okay, there's this sort of like rabid curiosity, like what was my ex thinking? So this is something that a dismissive avoidant might say to themselves when they're pulling away. To love means I'll lose myself, I'll forget who I am, and I'll lose everything I've worked for. To depend on someone means that I'm going to get hurt. They're going to disappoint me. They're inevitably going to disappoint me. So I just resort to not needing anybody. I'll keep my peace, and I'll do that by staying alone, by being the lone wolf and telling myself I have to go it alone. And this can lead to a lot of resentment, outward resentment towards self, and just a lot of shame because they're holding everything in. They're not actually ever really truly connecting. And it's very sad, guys. This is why I don't villainize. You're not going to see me villainizing an insecure attachment style, whether it's anxious, fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, because it's stemming from deep-seated childhood pain and trauma. So let's talk about why the dismissive avoidant creates distance in the relationship or after. Remember what I said in the beginning. Their distance or space or silence is their protection. It's not your rejection. We take things personally, but a wise woman once said to me, I think it was about 10 years ago, she said, Sarah, nothing anyone else ever does is because of you. But we're so damn egocentric as humans. We're all narcissistic. And we think, oh, you go into a restaurant and you're dining alone. And you're like, everyone's looking at me. Oh my gosh, I can't do that alone, or can't travel alone. No one's looking at you. Everyone's in their own world, doing their own thing, having their own life. No one's worried about what someone is doing dining alone. In fact, they're probably applauding you going, damn, that's courageous. I wish I could do that. So we often create these narratives or stories in our heads, and it's so easy to do when you've been with an avoidant. Like, they don't love me anymore. They've given up. They're going to break up with me. What did I do wrong? How can I get them back? And oftentimes with an anxious attacher who's connected to a dismissive avoidant, you're going to try to pull them back in, and they're going to push you away. And it's going to be this like push, pull. And the dismissive avoidant is like, just leave me alone. But the anxious doesn't know how to do that, because to them, it signals like death. It feels like almost a death to their nervous system. It feels like complete rejection. So they may ghost or detach suddenly because vulnerability feels like emotional exposure. It feels like engulfment. So they may do this like really suddenly, even within a conversation. They'll start to pull back if things get too intense or too serious or too deep. And the more emotionally intimate the relationship becomes, the more anxious they're going to feel. This is what's truly interesting, is you'll often see someone who thinks like, I will identify as anxious, but appear avoidant. And I find this fascinating. So they can actually show up avoidant, but inside they're feeling anxiety. And so this like opened up a whole new world for me to understand attachment styles. So outwardly, what you're seeing is avoidant behavior, but inwardly what they're feeling is massive anxiety. It's flooding their nervous system, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to control it. And so what you'll see is, for an anxious person, when this happens, you'll see them come towards you and try to, it almost feels like entrapment to the avoidant. For the avoidant person who feels this anxiety, they're going to pull back. They're going to pull away like a rubber band. They're going to snap back, and they don't want to be pulled forward. In fact, that can be painful to their nervous system to have you try to pull them out of this deactivation process that they're doing. Silence is how they regulate overwhelm. Silence is necessary for the DA's nervous system. You have to give them this space. And if you can't, you need to learn how to do that. If you want to be in a long-term relationship with your dismissive avoidant, you need to learn to give them that. And they also need to learn to come forward and to tell you, hey, I'm activated, I'm triggered, I need to regulate myself, I need 2 hours. There has to be changes made on both sides in order for the relationship to work. So when they ghosted you, it wasn't because you were too much. It was because feeling deeply was too much for them. And it could have been a conversation you had, or an expectation you had, or just taking the relationship to the next level. And the DA is like, I I don't know, my nervous system, they're engulfed. They feel like they can't breathe. They feel like they're being suffocated. They feel like they just have to get away. And then they feel an instantaneous sense of relief. And that's why it looks like they don't care at the end of a relationship, because they're actually feeling that relief, because their nervous system isn't getting flooded anymore. What this really is, guys, is self-protection in disguise. I know it doesn't look like that, and I know it doesn't feel like that. And I can already feel it. I'm going to have people like trying to argue with me on this. But this is the neuroscience of attachment styles. I'm telling you the truth, not what you want to hear. And I'm doing it with empathy and compassion because I'm healing fearful avoidant. I at one time identified as anxious ambivalent. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum, anxious and avoidant. And I can tell you, it's no fun to be insecurely attached. It's no fun to feel like there's a war going on. You know, you're at war with yourself or war with your mind or your emotions. It is not a fun feeling, and you don't want to purposely hurt anybody, but you don't know how else to act and how else to handle what's happening. So how do they self-protect? How does a DA self-protect? They shut down emotionally to avoid that internal chaos, to regulate their system. This is an automatic response, guys. It's not like they're like, I'm going to shut down and hurt them and make them feel rejected or abandoned. This is for them to protect their nervous system. They have to do this. Rationalizing the relationship to minimize its meaning, rewriting the narrative, rewriting the story. Oh, it wasn't that important. It wasn't that deep. I didn't really feel like they were my soulmate, etc. But in reality, they're in so much pain inside. Replacing intimacy, this can be sexual intimacy, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, with distractions. Surface level things, isolating themselves, work, dabbling in things, going off in the garage and doing things, taking walks, like doing things so that they don't have to be accountable to the relationship or to you, and especially for emotional closeness and intimacy. So to a dismissive avoidant, emotional distance feels like control. It feels like they're in control again, and control feels like safety. They've learned, remember, they may have been over-controlled in their environment in their childhood by a caretaker or parent. So emotional distance is equated to control, and control is equated to safety for them. They feel safe. That is the room and the space that they feel safe in. And when you try to come in there and knock on that door and they're like, no, this is my safe place, you can't come in here. And then the anxious is gonna push, why can't I come in there? Why, I thought we were partners, whatever. And their nervous system's going off, and the anxious, your nervous system, right? Your attachment system wants to be on. The dismissive avoidance attachment system wants to be off naturally. You have two kind of conflicting desires and needs. So let's talk about what this means for you, their ex, or maybe you're still in this relationship, but many of you watching my channel are already going through the breakup, or you've been in the breakup for several years now. Their emotional absence was never a measure of your self-worth or your value. You get to decide that, not something external. What is your worth? You decide what your self-worth is. It was rather a reflection of what they were taught love was supposed to feel like, which was controlling, which was avoidant, which was distance, which was superficial, okay? That's why they can come off so controlling, so stoic, so dismissive, so avoidant, asshole-ish, because inside they have all these emotions. They just don't know what to do with them because they were never taught. In fact, they were probably shamed for having emotions in their childhood. And you weren't too needy, likewise, for wanting and desiring that closeness and that connection. You were simply with someone who their nervous system, their attachment system wasn't equipped to give it to you. So this is about you learning not to take this personally, and really then learning, hopefully, how to heal, because you can heal. Even fearful avoidance, which is like the most disorganized attachment style. It is a disorganized attachment style. It's challenging to heal from, but you can heal from this. You have to want to put in the effort, and ideally have a partner who's going to meet you where you want to be. You know, a secure partner. Ideally, if you're still struggling with fearful avoidancy, grab a secure partner. If you're anxious, grab a secure partner. People say, oh, well, secure partners aren't going to gravitate towards insecure attachers. Not necessarily. It happens every day. But you have to be actively doing the work and actively wanting and desiring to change and striving to meet them where they're at. The grief is real, guys, when you've been broken up with by a dismissive avoidant, or if you're in the throes of the relationship with them, because the love was real and they said what they said and they meant what they said at the time. But don't confuse emotional unavailability with your unworthiness. You are inherently worthy. This person, this breakup doesn't dictate, the loss of a job or someone telling you whatever, doesn't dictate your worthiness. You get to decide if you're worthy or not. And your healing starts with this truth. You don't need to be chosen by someone who fears closeness. This is not a win. You're not the exception to the rule. This person has to want to heal internally. They have to love themselves enough to want a better life for themselves. And what they couldn't give you is not a mirror of your lovability or your desirability. It's a mirror of their wound. Okay, you held up a mirror to this person. They likely did the same for you. Healing begins when you stop chasing explanations or needing explanations from this person or needing closure from this person and start offering compassion to the part of you that feels like you have to earn love. Replay that line again, guys. Write that down. Healing begins when you stop chasing explanations from them or closure from them and start offering compassion to the part of you that felt like you had to try to earn somebody else's love. It's that part of you that needs to be really held compassionately and kindly and intimately and patiently. You deserve to be met wherever you are. And just because this person couldn't do that doesn't mean nobody will. So if this helped shift your perspective, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And guys, stay tuned. I'm gonna make the announcements here on my channel. I have just a lot going on behind the scenes. I'm so excited to share it with you when it starts to become more, what's the word? I was gonna say potent, but it is potent. When it becomes more real, when it becomes more tangible, that's the word. And yeah, in the meantime, guys, love yourself, honor yourself, respect yourself, find your self-worth within yourself. Got to stop seeking externally for that. It's already within. You're already whole. You're already an incredible, amazing human being. I know so because I work with clients every day and they're incredible, amazing human beings. So take good care. And I hope to see you guys in the July, August summer courses. They're going to be amazing. And we're going to have this amazing community. And I have a really exciting event happening next year that as soon as it comes into a little more focus and fruition, I will let you know. And it's going to be reserved for people who have worked with me, and I'm very, very excited. It's next level healing, next level group work, and I can't wait. So stay tuned. Lots of amazing things on the horizon. Be well, guys.